As the inferno engulfs Amina's home, Dr. Miriam and her team press through the choking smoke with unwavering determination. With Amina and her infant perilously close to the flames, Miriam reaches her just as the structure begins to collapse. The villagers, caught between their own fear and anger, observe the dramatic rescue with bated breath. This critical moment not only determines Amina's fate but also reveals deeper truths about the disaster's origins and its implications for the community. The resolution promises to uncover the true cause behind the fire and its broader impact on the village. Amidst the pandemonium, Amina's home is in immediate danger. Her residence, precariously close to the spreading fire, is one of the first structures threatened by the advancing flames. The intensity of the fire drives a wave of urgency and panic through Amina's heart. As she stands outside her home, watching the inferno close in, she is struck by a paralyzing fear, not just for her own safety but for the safety of her infant child and the few belongings she has left. Her previous sense of isolation is now compounded by the sheer scale of the disaster unfolding around her. The village's response to the fire is chaotic. The villagers, already on edge from the conflict with the NGO, turn their anger and fear toward what they believe to be a divine retribution. Many view the blaze as a clear sign of the gods' displeasure, a punishment for the perceived transgressions and the intrusion of foreign aid. Binta and her supporters seize the opportunity to further their agenda, reinforcing the idea that the fire is a manifestation of the anger directed at Amina's curse and the foreign interventions. As the fire rages, Dr. Miriam and her team, despite their own safety being compromised, spring into action. They organize a frantic rescue operation, working to save lives and provide aid amidst the smoke and flames. Their determination to help Amina and the other villagers in the midst of this disaster highlights their commitment to their mission. The blaze becomes a stark metaphor for the village's internal conflict. The destructive force of the fire forces the community to confront their beliefs and their treatment of those they have wronged. It strips away the veneer of normalcy and reveals the urgent need for change and healing. The fire, while devastating, becomes a catalyst for reflection and potential redemption, challenging the villagers to confront their fears and reconsider their path forward. As the inferno rages, the village of Duroc is shrouded in a suffocating haze of smoke and heat. The once vibrant community is now a scene of utter devastation, with flames engulfing homes and consuming everything in their path. Amidst the turmoil, Dr. Miriam and her NGO team make a pivotal decision: they must rescue Amina, who is trapped in her burning home. The fire blazes with relentless intensity, casting an eerie glow over the village. The crackling of flames and the panicked shouts of villagers create a cacophony of chaos. Dr. Miriam and her team, equipped with only basic protective gear and their unwavering resolve, wade into the thick of the disaster. The heat is unbearable, and the smoke threatens to choke them as they press forward. Dr. Miriam leads the charge, her face set with determination. The team battles against the roaring flames, using makeshift tools to clear debris and create a path to Amina's home. The sight of the house, partially consumed by fire, intensifies their urgency. They know that every second counts, and the risk of collapsing structures and unpredictable fire behavior only heightens their danger. Finally, they reach Amina's home, which is now barely standing. The sight of Amina, huddled in a corner with her infant child, is both heart-wrenching and galvanizing. The flames are dangerously close, and the air is thick with the acrid smell of burning wood and fabric. Dr. Miriam and her team quickly assess the situation, their hearts pounding as they realize the full extent of the peril. With extraordinary bravery, the team moves into action. They help Amina and her child through the choking smoke and blistering heat, navigating a treacherous path to safety. Each step is fraught with peril, as the fire continues to encroach on their route. The rescue operation is a race against time, with the heat intensifying and the danger escalating. As they finally escape the flames, Dr. Miriam and her team emerge from the smoke, carrying Amina and her child to a safe location. The exhaustion and relief are palpable as the team members collapse, their faces streaked with soot and sweat. Amina, though traumatized and shaken, clings to her saviors with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. The dramatic rescue not only highlights the NGO team's courage and selflessness but also marks a critical turning point in Amina's journey. For Amina, escaping the fire symbolizes more than just physical safety. It represents a moment of profound change and a step toward her long-awaited recovery and redemption. The morning after the fire reveals the full extent of its destruction. Duroc, once a vibrant tapestry of life and tradition, now lies in ruins. Charred remnants of homes, smoldering ashes, and the twisted remains of everyday objects paint a somber picture of what was lost. The village, in its dazed state, is a labyrinth of devastation, with the pungent smell of smoke still lingering in the air. The villagers, disoriented and overwhelmed, sift through the debris of their lives. Faces once bright with community spirit are now marked by the grim reality of their new existence. There is an almost palpable sense of grief and bewilderment as they gather to assess the damage. The fire has not only destroyed their homes but has also ignited a fierce debate about the beliefs and practices that they had held sacred. In hushed, anxious conversations, the villagers begin to question the long-held superstitions that have shaped their lives. The fire, viewed initially as divine punishment, now forces them to reconsider whether their beliefs were justified. The accusations against Amina and the foreign NGO are revisited with doubt and confusion. The realization dawns that perhaps their traditions, rather than providing protection, may have led to their downfall. Amina, now safely under the care of Dr. Miriam and her team, becomes a symbol of the village's internal struggle. Her plight, coupled with the destruction wrought by the fire, begins to prompt a reassessment of the harsh and outdated customs that have caused so much suffering. The sight of her resilience and survival in the face of adversity offers a stark contrast to the old ways that the community clings to. The destruction of the fire becomes a powerful metaphor for the need to dismantle and rebuild the village's social and cultural structures. As the villagers begin to sift through the ashes of their homes, they also start to confront the ashes of their long-standing beliefs. The once unquestionable practices and customs are now under scrutiny, leading to heated discussions and deep reflection. Dr. Miriam, witnessing the profound impact of the disaster, seizes the moment to advocate for change. Her efforts to provide aid and rebuild are now intertwined with a broader mission to educate and inspire the community to embrace new ways of thinking. She holds meetings and discussions, presenting evidence of the benefits of modern medicine and questioning the efficacy of traditional practices that have failed to protect them. The atmosphere in the makeshift clinic is a mix of tense anticipation and determined focus. Dr. Miriam and her medical team work amidst the remnants of the village's destruction, their dedication undiminished by the chaos that surrounds them. The clinic, now a beacon of hope, is a testament to their unwavering commitment to providing care despite the adversity they face. Amina, now a patient in the clinic, is a picture of frailty and courage. Her condition, Vesicovaginal Fistula, VVF, has caused her profound discomfort and embarrassment. The constant leakage of urine has not only been a physical burden but also a severe blow to her dignity and self-esteem. Yet, as she prepares for surgery, there is a flicker of hope in her eyes, a belief that this intervention might be the first step toward reclaiming her life. Dr. Miriam, calm and resolute, reviews the details of the operation one last time. The procedure to repair Amina's VVF is complex and delicate, requiring precision and skill. The room is filled with the soft hum of medical equipment and the low murmur of the team's focused conversations. Every member of the team is aware of the gravity of the moment. The surgery not only aims to restore Amina's physical health but also to address the emotional scars that have plagued her. The operation begins with careful incisions and meticulous work to repair the damaged tissue. Dr. Miriam's hands move with practiced precision, guided by her extensive experience and her deep empathy for Amina's plight. The procedure is lengthy and intricate, demanding both technical skill and a compassionate touch. During the surgery, the tension in the room is palpable. Amina lies unconscious, surrounded by the beeping monitors and the soft rustle of surgical instruments. Dr. Miriam's concentration is unwavering as she works to correct the fistula and restore normal function. The process requires not only medical expertise but also a deep understanding of the physical and emotional trauma Amina has endured. As the surgery progresses, the medical team remains vigilant, monitoring every detail to ensure the best possible outcome. The hours stretch on, but Dr. Miriam's commitment never wavers. Each successful step in the procedure is a small victory, inching closer to alleviating Amina's suffering. Finally, the operation is complete. The team breathes a collective sigh of relief as they dress Amina's wounds and prepare her for recovery. The physical pain she has endured is not instantly erased, but the successful repair of the fistula signifies a new beginning for her. The road to full recovery will be slow and fraught with challenges, but the surgery marks a crucial turning point in her journey. As Amina awakens, her first moments of consciousness are filled with a mix of confusion and hope. Dr. Miriam is there to reassure her, explaining the success of the surgery and the steps ahead. The healing process will be gradual, but the operation has set the stage for Amina's physical and emotional recovery. In the weeks following her surgery, Amina's recovery is marked by a profound transformation. Her once fragile form begins to regain strength, and with each passing day, her spirit grows more resilient. As her physical wounds heal, so too does her sense of self-worth, nurtured by the support of Dr. Miriam and the NGO team. Amina's newfound strength becomes a catalyst for change. The quiet solitude of her recovery period allows her to reflect deeply on her past and the systemic issues that led to her suffering. The emotional and physical scars she bears are now symbols of a greater injustice that affects countless other girls in her community and beyond. This realization ignites a powerful determination within her to use her voice for a cause far greater than her own recovery. With a mixture of trepidation and resolve, Amina begins to speak out against child marriage and vesicovaginal fistula, VVF. Her first public appearances are met with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Villagers who once viewed her with suspicion and shame now watch as she recounts her harrowing experiences. Her courage and honesty strike a chord with many, gradually shifting public perception. Yet, Amina's advocacy is not without its challenges. The community's deeply ingrained traditions resist her message, and opposition emerges from those who cling to old beliefs. Binta, the healer, and other traditionalists see Amina's new role as a threat to their authority and influence. They spread counter-narratives, attempting to discredit Amina's claims and undermine her efforts. Despite the backlash, Amina's voice grows stronger. She partners with Dr. Miriam to organize educational workshops and community meetings, where she shares her story and educates others about the dangers of child marriage and the benefits of modern medical interventions. Her bravery in the face of adversity resonates with many, and slowly but surely, her message begins to gain traction. As Amina continues her advocacy, she becomes a beacon of hope and resilience. Her story inspires other young girls and women to come forward with their own experiences, creating a ripple effect of change. The once silent victims of oppressive traditions now find their voices, bolstered by Amina's example. Amina's transformation from a victim to an advocate is not just a personal triumph but a pivotal moment for her community. Her efforts challenge the status quo and begin to pave the way for a more enlightened future. The struggle is far from over, but Amina's courage and dedication signal the dawn of a new era of awareness and reform. Despite the flickers of hope ignited by Amina's advocacy and the tangible improvements brought by Dr. Miriam's team, the road to change is fraught with intense resistance. The community's deep-seated traditions, challenged by the influx of modern ideas, stir up a storm of opposition that threatens to derail the progress made. Binta, the village healer, has become increasingly desperate to maintain her influence and the power that comes with it. Viewing the NGO's efforts as a direct threat to her authority and livelihood, she escalates her campaign against them. Her strategy involves a calculated blend of misinformation and fear-mongering, aiming to discredit Dr. Miriam and the organization. Binta leverages her knowledge of local superstitions, painting the NGO's medical practices as foreign and harmful. Her followers, initially supportive of her authority, begin to amplify her messages. They spread rumors that the NGO's treatments are not only ineffective but are believed to cause harm or be a form of witchcraft. These whispers, fueled by fear and uncertainty, create a climate of hostility that pervades the village. Dr. Miriam and her team find themselves under increasing scrutiny. Sabotage becomes a recurring issue, medical supplies mysteriously disappear, and the clinic's operations are disrupted by deliberate acts of vandalism. The NGO staff face threats and hostile confrontations from those who view their presence as a corrupting influence. The clinic, once a symbol of hope, now faces the risk of being shut down or driven out. In the midst of this turmoil, Dr. Miriam remains steadfast. She organizes community meetings to address concerns and dispel myths, using every opportunity to educate and build trust. However, the resistance is formidable, with Binta's influence deeply rooted in the villagers' fears and traditions. The conflict reaches a critical point when a dramatic incident occurs. A prominent villager falls ill under mysterious circumstances, and Binta uses this as an opportunity to accuse the NGO of malevolence. The accusations lead to a surge of anti-NGO sentiment, further isolating Dr. Miriam and her team. The situation becomes a high-stakes battleground where every decision and action is scrutinized. Despite the mounting opposition, Amina continues to lend her voice to the cause, using her story to counter the negative narratives being spread. Her involvement, however, puts her at greater risk, making her a target for those opposed to change. As the village continues to grapple with the contentious clash between tradition and modernity, Amina's family finds itself ensnared in a profound internal conflict. Their once clear allegiance to age-old customs is now overshadowed by a growing recognition of the harm these traditions have wrought on their own daughter and the wider community. This crisis of faith reveals the deep-seated struggles of navigating a world where deeply ingrained beliefs collide with the pressing need for change. Amina's parents, Fatima and Ahmed, are torn between their traditional values and the undeniable suffering their daughter has endured. Fatima, once a staunch supporter of the old ways, is plagued by guilt and confusion. She remembers the days when Amina's laughter filled their home, contrasting sharply with the current reality of her daughter's pain and isolation. The heavy burden of knowing that their adherence to tradition contributed to Amina's plight weighs heavily on her heart. Ahmed, though less vocal about his internal struggle, is equally conflicted. His respect for tradition has always been a cornerstone of his identity, but seeing Amina's suffering challenges his steadfast beliefs. He feels the sting of betrayal from a system he once revered and is uncertain how to reconcile his past actions with the pressing need for reform. The family's crisis intensifies as their involvement with the NGO becomes a point of contention. Fatima and Ahmed are subjected to intense scrutiny from their neighbors, who accuse them of betraying their cultural values by supporting the NGO's modern approaches. The family faces ostracism and criticism, further deepening their turmoil. Amina's younger siblings, once eager to please, now see their parents in a new light. They struggle to understand why their sister, whom they once saw as a symbol of familial pride, is now a figure of shame and controversy. The siblings' innocent questions and burgeoning awareness add another layer of complexity to the family's struggle. In the quiet moment of reflection, the family gathers around their modest table, attempting to bridge the chasm between their traditional beliefs and the realities of their changed circumstances. Fatima, with tear-filled eyes, questions the validity of customs that perpetuate suffering, while Ahmed grapples with the fear of losing his identity in the face of change. Their conversations are fraught with raw emotion and painful realizations, as they confront the stark truth that their faith in tradition has come at a grave cost. Amidst these familiar conflicts, Amina's own transformation becomes a mirror for her family's struggle. Her journey from victim to advocate challenges not only her community but also her family's understanding of their place within it. As they support Amina's advocacy, they must confront their own beliefs and come to terms with the profound changes unfolding around them. In the aftermath of the devastating fire and the escalating rumors of divine retribution, Dr. Miriam and her team are faced with an urgent mission to uncover the truth behind the village's misfortunes. The persistent accusations of witchcraft and curses have entrenched the villagers' beliefs, casting a shadow over any hope for rational discourse. Yet, amidst the chaos and superstition, Dr. Miriam is determined to expose the true causes of the recent calamities. Dr. Miriam's team, armed with their medical and investigative expertise, begins a thorough examination of the village's living conditions. Their investigation reveals a grim reality: the illness afflicting the villagers and the devastating fire are both consequences of long-standing neglect and inadequate infrastructure. Crumbling buildings, faulty electrical wiring, and unsanitary conditions are found to be contributing factors to the spread of disease and the intensity of the fire. The revelation starts with a series of interviews and inspections. Dr. Miriam's team interviews villagers who have fallen ill and traces the outbreaks to unsanitary water sources and overcrowded living spaces. They discover that the mysterious illness, marked by fever and unexplained pains, is not a supernatural affliction but a direct result of contaminated water and poor sanitation. The fire, initially believed to be a sign of divine anger, is traced back to a combination of faulty wiring and lack of fire safety measures. The breakthrough comes when Dr. Miriam's team uncovers a hidden cache of documents and records from the village's administration, revealing a history of ignored safety regulations and neglected maintenance. The evidence is damning. Repeated warnings about fire hazards and health risks were dismissed or unaddressed due to corruption and apathy. As the truth emerges, Dr. Miriam and her team prepare to confront the village with their findings. The revelation of the real causes behind the illnesses and the fire is set to shake the foundations of the villagers' beliefs. Dr. Miriam knows that this confrontation will be fraught with tension, as it challenges deeply held superstitions and exposes uncomfortable truths. The day arrives when Dr. Miriam, armed with evidence and supported by her team, calls a village meeting. The atmosphere is charged with a mixture of fear and anticipation. As she presents the findings, the villagers listen in stunned silence. The detailed explanations of how poor living conditions led to the recent tragedies begin to dismantle the once unshakable belief in divine retribution. The impact of the revelation is immediate and profound. Many villagers experience a jarring shift in perspective, as the supernatural explanations they clung to for comfort are replaced by the harsh realities of neglect and mismanagement. The skepticism that once fueled Binta's accusations starts to wane, giving way to a growing acceptance of the need for practical changes. However, the truth also fuels new conflicts. Binta, feeling her authority and influence slipping, becomes increasingly desperate. She rallies her remaining supporters to challenge the validity of Dr. Miriam's findings, arguing that the evidence is a fabrication to undermine traditional beliefs. This resistance creates a volatile environment where fear and uncertainty continue to simmer. Despite the pushback, the truth begins to take root in the village's collective consciousness. Conversations shift from mystical explanations to discussions about improving infrastructure and addressing health concerns. The village of Durok is now a battleground of ideologies, with the clash between traditional beliefs and modern knowledge coming to a head. The emerging truth about the fire and the illness has sown seeds of doubt among the villagers, challenging Binta's once ironclad authority. As skepticism grows, the villagers begin to question the healer's claims of divine retribution and witchcraft, and a public confrontation with Dr. Miriam looms on the horizon. The tension reaches its peak when Dr. Miriam, supported by Amina and her advocates, calls for a village assembly. The meeting is set to address the mounting concerns about the real causes behind the recent tragedies and the implications for the community's future. The air is thick with anticipation as villagers gather, their faces reflecting a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. Binta, who has been losing her grip on the villagers' trust, arrives with her entourage, her face set in a mask of defiance. She is determined to maintain her position and combat what she perceives as an assault on her authority and the traditional beliefs she upholds. Dr. Miriam, poised and resolute, prepares to lay out the evidence that has undermined Binta's claims. As the meeting begins, Dr. Miriam presents the findings of her investigation. She lays out the evidence of poor living conditions and negligence that contributed to the illness and the fire. Her detailed explanations are met with a mix of shock and disbelief from the villagers. The stark reality of their situation is laid bare, challenging the very foundation of their beliefs. Binta, feeling the ground shift beneath her, rises to counter Dr. Miriam's arguments. She accuses the NGO of fabricating evidence to discredit her and undermine traditional values. Her voice rises in a desperate plea to restore her influence, but her accusations are met with growing murmurs of dissent. The villagers, many of whom have suffered due to the neglect and are beginning to see the limitations of superstition, are increasingly swayed by the rational explanations provided by Dr. Miriam. The confrontation between Binta and Dr. Miriam becomes a dramatic spectacle. Binta's attempts to rally support are met with indifference from a significant portion of the crowd. The healer's once powerful presence is now overshadowed by the undeniable evidence and the compelling arguments for change. Dr. Miriam's calm and authoritative demeanor contrasts sharply with Binta's increasingly erratic behavior, amplifying the sense of a shifting paradigm. Amidst the clash, Amina's role as an advocate becomes crucial. Her testimony about her own suffering and the transformation she has undergone resonates deeply with the villagers. She stands as a living testament to the possibility of change and the promise of a future free from the constraints of outdated customs. Amina's bravery in sharing her story provides a powerful counterpoint to Binta's fervent defenses. The chapter reaches its climax as the villagers begin to voice their own opinions, reflecting a deepening divide between those clinging to old beliefs and those embracing the new evidence. The dialogue becomes heated, with accusations and counter-arguments flying back and forth. The clash of beliefs exposes the raw emotions and conflicts simmering beneath the surface of the community. The village of Durok stands at a crossroads, with Binta's influence waning and Amina's voice gaining prominence. The recent clash of beliefs has left the community in a state of flux, and the shift in perception about Amina begins to signal a profound transformation. As Binta's credibility falters, her former supporters start to question their alignment with her superstitions. The healer's attempts to regain control are met with skepticism, and the once unshakable reverence for her authority begins to erode. In the wake of the confrontation, Amina emerges as a beacon of hope and strength. Her journey from a victim of child marriage and VVF to a determined advocate for change captures the imagination of the villagers. Amina's story, once shrouded in stigma and fear, now resonates as a powerful testament to resilience and the possibility of transformation. Her experiences of suffering and recovery, combined with her articulate advocacy for girls' rights, shift the narrative from one of curse to one of courage. Villagers who once saw her as a symbol of misfortune now view her as a harbinger of positive change. Her transformation into an advocate highlights the potential for individual experiences to drive collective progress. The turning tide becomes evident in the small, yet significant, changes in the village. Women and girls who had previously been silent now come forward, sharing their own stories of hardship and hope. The discussions that follow are no longer dominated by fear and superstition but are increasingly framed around the possibilities of reform and healing. Amina's efforts to raise awareness about child marriage and VVF begin to bear fruit. Community meetings, once tense and combative, become more open and receptive. Amina and Dr. Miriam work together to organize workshops and discussions, focusing on education and support for those affected by similar issues. The dialogue about these critical issues starts to shift, with more villagers engaging in conversations about rights, health, and empowerment. Amina's growing influence is reflected in the changing attitudes of her peers and even some former critics. The once silent majority begins to speak out in support of her cause. The village's youth, inspired by Amina's courage, become increasingly involved in advocacy efforts, amplifying her message and challenging outdated traditions. However, the journey is not without obstacles. Some traditionalists continue to resist, clinging to their established beliefs and viewing Amina's growing prominence as a threat. Binta, though weakened, still exerts influence over a faction of the village. Her attempts to discredit Amina and the NGO are sporadic but persistent, aiming to sow discord and prevent further progress. Despite these challenges, the atmosphere in Durok is gradually shifting. The seeds of change that Amina and Dr. Miriam have planted begin to take root, and the community starts to envision a future where outdated practices are replaced with progressive values. Ends with a sense of cautious optimism, as Amina's advocacy begins to transform the village's approach to issues of child marriage and maternal health, signaling the start of a broader cultural and social awakening. The village of Durok begins to awaken as Dr. Miriam and Amina lead educational workshops and community meetings aimed at transforming deeply ingrained beliefs. These gatherings are held in the village square, drawing a mix of curiosity and skepticism from the villagers.